Alright, so I guess we got to see the map in the stream. I'm just gonna double check. Yes, excellent connection. That's always good. So yes, in one of my last videos, one of my viewers was wondering if I'd make content for the C-101, and I wasn't too sure if I would like that plane or not, but it sort of gave me an idea, like why not try it with the free trial, but also use the opportunity to just show, like, let's say someone who's just starting out in DCS who wants to maybe get into a trainer, get to know how to fly these things. It's not necessarily super easy when you're starting out in DCS, and so there are a few things I like to do when I get a new module. So what I did is I went and activated the 2-week trial for the plane. And it's a plane I've never really flown before. I did a few tests before just to know that some of the things would work. But what I'll do is, first of all, I'll show you something I got before even getting into the plane. I'll tab here, and we're gonna go to this here. This is something I went on Google and I typed in C-101 quick checklist. This checklist actually works for the EB and the CC versions of the plane, but if you go to the digital combat simulator user files, you should be able to find this. And one of the things, once you've downloaded it and installed it in the they have like an instruction sheet, and before you put it in your kneeboard folder, they say to rename the file from a 1 to a 0. That way you don't overwrite the first page in the checklist that's already there in the C-101. And so I did that. I renamed it 0, and so if I go like one previous page when we do the, let's say, the cold start, we'll be able to check something that looks like this. It tells you like what to do for the different steps in the correct order. I've used these quick checklists for a lot of planes. I still use it a lot for the F5 when I do cold starts, and it works really well. So I figured it would probably work really well for this plane as well. So this is the type of things you can check even before you fly. Other things you can check when you want to set up a plane. I sometimes go check, like videos like this from the Grim Reapers that will tell you how to cold start. The Grim Reapers are also very good to set up controls, which was one of the things that we'll be doing here as well. But that's the type of thing that you should do when you first get a module. Here I've already built a little bit of a mission since I'm not very new to DCS, but basically since the Caucasus map is a map that comes with the game, a lot of people starting out will be able to have access to it. And one of the things I would suggest if you want to do a first flight with a plane, I like Kobuleti. That's one of the airfields I've learned a lot of my planes with. But what I did here is I put a lot of decorations around. You'll see when we get in the cockpit, but I've put the C-101CC, which is the one I'll probably fly more than the other one, which is more for aerobatics and training. And we're going to go and get in the cockpit, and we're going to go set up our controls for it. And then we'll try to do a cold start, and then we'll try to fly. But what I did here is I positioned, like with the little plane icon, I positioned the plane right here. I made sure it was client. You can choose player as well. Both of those will work if you want to be able to fly it. I gave it a name, Colt 11, and then I chose the option takeoff from ground. Now let's say it's your first flight and you just want to fly around. You can do takeoff from ground hot, and then the engines will already be on. But I want to do a cold start, so I just did the takeoff from ground. If you'd like to start like on one of the parking spots, like the 30 here or the 29 or whichever other one, you can say takeoff from parking. Or if you do takeoff from ramp, it'll start without the engines on, so you can do a cold start again. If you do takeoff from runway in the single player, it's probably going to put you like right at the beginning of the runway ready for takeoff. So all these options are available. I position my plane like really close to the runway, so I'll just have to turn right, then turn left, and we'll be good to go. So this is something that you can do pretty easily. You don't have to set up many complicated things. I had already set up some information because after that you know, probably I'll want to practice some of my navigation with the plane. So for now though, anybody who just wants to go fly, you just choose your plane, and I chose this one. It's from the country of Georgia, and you choose the skin that you want. By choosing Combined Task Forces Blue, you make it like a blue side aircraft, and then you can choose whichever one of the skins available for it you want. If you choose a specific country, well, you'll be limited to the ones for the country that you're using. And as you can see, there are a few loadouts you can put, but it's our first flight, so we'll leave it nice and clean. One of the other things I did is I put the fuel at 50%. I've been told that this plane, if you put it at 100%, it'll fly forever, but it'll be very heavy on takeoff. So I figured since we're just going to try to start the engines, maybe do a takeoff roll and fly around, maybe come back to land, we don't need too much fuel. So our weight will be at about 72% of what the plane can take, which is probably more fuel than we even need, but for now I figured it'd be nice. So this is the kind of basic stuff you could do before getting into the cockpit to fly. So once you have that, make sure you choose like a file name for the mission. I called it C-101CC first flight, and then you save it like this, and then you can hit the fly button. So then you choose the plane that you put in the mission. In this case, this is the only thing in the mission, so it's pretty easy. It's only the only thing that can be controlled, so we'll click OK. We'll get our briefing again. This one has the objectives. I wrote no waypoints, just TACAN and different information about the airfields. I'll probably have to change some of the info there too, but once you click fly, you're in your cockpit. And then if I look around, you can see that I put a few decorations there and another plane next to mine. So this is what it looks like from the outside. It's a very good looking plane. You can see the rivets on the back. I made it like an early day type of thing so that you would see nice sun reflections, but also when we're in the cockpit later on, we'll be able to play with the lights and things and see a little bit of that as we get going. But before we get anything started with the plane, we got to set up our controls. So let's hit escape and go adjust controls. And what I'll do is first I'm going to go to the access commands to show you something that can happen sometimes. Is like if I move my joystick around, I can see that pitch and roll are moving. But I can also see that there's a pitch and roll assigned to my crosswinds, which are my rudder pedals. And so if I play with the rudder pedals, it goes left and right. But then if I press my brakes, oops, it's assigned to pitch and roll. And DCS does that very often for many planes. It gives it like default types of axes that are not good for what you want to do with them. So what I want to use, these are my pedals. They have a brake on each pedal like this. They're individual. I don't want them for pitch and roll. So you want to clear these two like this. And I want wheel brake left on my left pedal and wheel brake right on my right pedal. Now, if you don't have pedals, you would probably go in the regular commands and assign a left brake and a right brake, because this airplane doesn't have a nose wheel or nose wheel steering, I should say. Therefore, you have to do differential brake steering, and that's how you're going to turn when you taxi. So you got to make sure that you have something assigned for left brake, right brake. If you only have like a wheel brake setting, it's just going to brake in a straight line. It's not going to allow you to turn. Could be frustrating for some people. One of the things that I had already set up for myself here is the zoom. On my throttle, I have a slider which I can use to zoom in and out. When I first got in the cockpit just for testing, I wanted to be able to zoom in and out, so this is very useful for that. Other thing about the brakes, I know that mine, it goes like back and forth like this. Sometimes for certain planes I have to invert it. And since we're in the C-101CC, it's not been done yet, but I tested it with the C-101AB, and it seems to be in the right axis. We'll know once we get the plane going if it brakes properly, or if it's when I release the brake that it brakes. Then you might have to do like one of those little things here where you go to axis tune. Sometimes I have to invert for certain planes, but I think for this one we'll be fine because I tested it with the EB and it seemed to work okay by default. So I'll just hit cancel. We don't need to change that. So now we have, okay, left, right, up, down. We've got pitch control. We've got our rudder, but you can see that there's also rudder assigned to the joystick. We don't want that, so we'll clear that one. Now I'd like to have my throttle also, so I've got this axis here that looks to be correct for thrust, so I'm just going to confirm that by playing with my joystick throttle and click OK. And what else do we need in here? I think we've got pretty much everything. I have a track IR, so that's done automatically. I never touch that. Same thing for the mouse controls. It's kind of nice to have the cameras when you're in the outside view with the mouse, so I wouldn't play with those. But you want your different axes for sure set up before you go set up anything else. And whenever you make a change, it's always a good idea to click OK. That way it saves those changes in your config file, and then you can always go back to adjust controls to do the rest. So we're going to go now in the search function, because I have some specific ones that I've sort of put that I want to do. So now you have the flaps. So in this plane you have flaps down, flap middle, flaps up. Sometimes it's kind of nice to be able to go flaps up and down depending on what kind of setup you have. But in my case, I have a switch for my flaps that has 3 positions, and since we have all 3 here, that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to go on my throttle, and then this is the up position of my switch, this is the middle, and this is the down. Now let's say you have a button that goes up and down. You would probably use up and down for your setup on your HOTAS. So here results will vary, but that's what I'm going to use for my flaps. For air brakes, or the air brake, because I think there's only one in this. So you have an extend and retract. So I have like a little thumb switch on my throttle again. So if I want it to retract, I'm going to push it forward. If I want it to extend, I'll put it backwards like that. And that's set up for that. For the gear, I'm going to type gear. We have an in and out, or landing gear up, landing in. Yeah, I love it when they have okay, those are for the circuit breaker. So yeah, G usually is a toggle, and then we have a down and up. So again, on my throttle I have a switch that goes down, then goes up. So that's set up for the gear. And then, oh yes, trigger, oops, 1G, 2G's trigger. Fixed weapons trigger. So I want something to be able to shoot. So I'm going to put this, and my trigger, it's like a 2-stage trigger, so I want both stages. So you can see that you can have more than one button assigned. But that trigger also has a lock, and you need to unlock before you can use it. So you can either use these keyboard commands or assign something else. And what I was thinking is I might use like a modifier, like left control plus the trigger, and that's how I'm gonna unlock it. And then there's same thing for stores. There's a stores release button. On my stick I usually use this button 20 there. And to open the guard, I'm going to do like I did before. I'm going to do left control and that button, and that's going to take care of that. Next, we want to set the trim. On any plane, you want to have your trim to be set up properly. So there's usually like an up, down. Yeah, there we go. So again, one of the things I will say about the trim, maybe before we go there, we're going to go in all but access commands. By default, like my trim switch is set for those views here. Now I know some people don't have a track IR, so you might want to keep that. So then you might want to have another four-way switch to be able to do it. But since I have the track IR, I kind of prefer to just clear all of that and use my track IR to move my head around and not the trim switch. And so I'm going to click OK. Like I said earlier, it saves everything when you click OK. And we're going to go back to our search and hit trim, and then we can say nose down. I push, oops, I got the wrong box. Joystick. Nose down, it's going to go like this. Nose up, we're going to pull. Roll left like that. Roll right like that. So that's going to give us proper trim. And trying to see here. Ah, yes, another button that I set up. I'll type in safety. Yes. This thing here, canopy emergency fracturing safety pin. I tried using the mouse in the cockpit to do that, and it was giving me a little bit of trouble, so I've assigned a button for it. And so just figured I'd let you know that on my throttle I have a button that I've set up for that. And I think this other button there, yeah, this one, which is the throttle idle detent, that's something that can be useful when you're going to do your cold start. So it's right alt home by default for the keyboard, but it's nice to have a button to take your throttle from the off position to the idle once you get the engine started. Now, in one of the Grim Reaper videos that I watched, they talk about the range selector. I'm not going to probably need that for now, so I'll just click OK. And if we go on the outside view, I don't know if we can, yes, we can activate the ailerons like this. We can see that they're working with the joystick, and the elevator in the back, it goes up and down. We can do like that, and then we can test the rudder, and we can see it works. Now, of course, the flaps and the air brake probably won't work at this point because the aircraft is off. You can see I don't even have my helmet, and the ladder is still there. So at this point, once you've set up your controls, you can try a cold start. So if you've installed that knee pad where I told you to, like earlier, so I'm gonna get my right shift K button, and this gives you the checklists that come with the C-101. But if I hit the left bracket key, I'm going to go to page 0, and this is the one I downloaded off the internet. And this will get you through the different things you want to do before you take off. So you can see that the parking brake is set. Next thing to do would be to turn the battery on. So the battery is down here, so we're going to turn it on. They say to turn the GPU on. I think it's on the other side there. I don't really know how that does anything, but we'll click it. Then we have the bus tie and the inverter. They say to put it on reserve, but in the video I watched it said to put it on normal, so I'll put it on normal. Then we can set up our oxygen, and then we can see that it's moving there. And then we can turn that off because it's annoying as all hell, right? Once the oxygen is done, we can check our lights. So if we want anti-collision, formation, and nav lights, if we go outside, we'll see that the lights are on all around. There we go. And then the seat. Yes, when you're looking at the front of the plane, you can see that I see like the top of this here. So there's a seat adjustment here where you can lower your seat till you actually like are sitting where you want to. So you can adjust to how you'd like it. Computador, that's computer. So we'll click here. We're going to turn it on. Fuel pumps. So these are the switches here. They say off. So we have to go with this, and now I guess they're on. And then the fuel valves, they say to put all the switches on automatic. So all of them are on automatic. And then fuel valve, it's on. Inverter right here, we're gonna, okay, we've got it there. And was it the, okay, that's good. Then we have the radios, which I won't touch for now, but you should probably like do that before you start the engines. And so yes, the computer, it says yes. So does that turn it on, or okay, yeah. You don't want anything else lit up here, so so 4 reds, 1 amber, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's good. And then the starter. So we're going to get ready to start the engine. It's right here. You need to hold it for about 2 seconds. And as you do that, you check your percentages on the engines. And once you get past 10 here, you're going to be able to use your button to get this on idle. My engine noises are fairly low, but normally you'll hear quite a bit of noise at this point. So even though they say to close the canopy a little bit later, I've seen people do it at this point, and then you lock it like that. That way it's a bit quieter. So we barely hear the engine when we're inside here, but that's my settings. Yours may differ. Okay, so GPU off. I'm really not too sure what that switch does, but on, off, it doesn't do anything. And then generator, we're gonna go to reset like that, and then on. There you go. And then there's this thing here that we need to set like that. And then IFF, I haven't really touched that yet, so we're gonna assume that this is good, and then we can check our air brakes, flaps, and things like that. So if I pull on my air brake, you can see that it's coming down below the plane, and it goes in. So that means our control setups went okay. Now the flaps, we're gonna put them in the middle position. As you can see, they're coming down. And if I go further and go to the full extent, I think for takeoff we put it over there. Now I want to show you where that is. Like when I play with that switch, it goes there, there, and it says takeoff, and there, that's full for landing probably, so we'll leave it for takeoff. And that looks pretty good. The pitted heat, I believe, is here. And then we have the stall warning, which I think is on by default. Although, I don't know, was there a switch for that? I wouldn't know. So interior, exterior lights. Yes, I said we could play maybe with some of the interior lights, so we'll set them on bright. You can see that it becomes a little bit brighter like that. And then we can have that, and then you can play with the brightness on those knobs. And you can see that there's like a little reddish glow. That's part of the reason why I set it up with the sun just getting up, so we could actually see those, and we can also see the outside lights pretty well. So there. And so the canopy is already closed. Air conditioning, that's something I saw somewhere. There it is. They say to reset it, reset, and then okay, I guess that position is the on position. Takeoff trim. Okay, I think you have to pull on it like about a third of a notch there. This is the indicator there, so like 1/3 between those two should be good apparently for this plane. And there's the ejector pin here. This one I can do with the mouse. Like you play with the little mouse wheel and you actually wait until it removes it. There you go. So now I can eject. And there was this one here that I told you that when I tried to do it with the mouse I had trouble. So I assigned a button for it, and there you go. That removes that. And parking brake, release. And that means that we should be able to taxi at this point. So our plane is in working order. It's good to go. So we're going to go for our first flight. As I said, this aircraft has differential braking. So I'm going to have to use my rudder pedals. And I'm not going to use the rudder pedal to turn left and right. I'm going to use the brakes on them. So I'm going to move forward a little bit. I'm going to use the left brake to see if my nose goes to the left, and then I'll use the right brake to see if it goes to the right. And then we'll use that differential braking to get on the runway right here. So I'm giving it a little bit of throttle, a little bit of left brake. You can see my nose is turning. And if I use the right brake, the nose is turning right. So you will do that in the outside view so you can see. So the nose wheel is just following what you're doing with the brake. It's not steering the plane. I think when I had tested the L39, it works like that. The MiG-21 also has a similar function. So it's differential braking. When I fly the Mirage F1, sometimes when I land too, I use the differential braking to keep the plane straight. Sometimes you'll need to use more one side of the brake than the other, so it keeps the nose in the right direction. Alright, so with the sun getting up, we're going to be getting ready to take off. So as I said earlier, I didn't play with the radios yet. I want to learn how to work those a little bit better before I show you. But we'll be able to probably take off and fly a little bit, which is the kind of thing you want to do when you first start with a plane. So we'll take off, maybe turn left, and then see if we can come back and land on this particular runway here and go park the plane. So we'll position it here, more or less centered. One of the things that's difficult to do with those differential steering planes is to put it like with us heading straight. So now it looks like it's pretty straight, so I can just hold the brakes down, bring the throttle up, release the brakes, adjust with the brakes when I'm at low speed. And once you reach a certain speed at one point, the rudders, I'm going to try the rudders now. Yeah, the rudders, you have rudder authority when you have a certain speed, so you can just use the rudders to go left and right with the nose. And I think this plane takes off at about 120. It seems like it wants to, so I'm gonna pull on the stick. And so yeah, about 125, 130 is where we took off. And so I'm gonna get my gear up. You can see that this is working too. And then we can get the flaps up. Then I'm trimming the nose down a little bit to remove some of that takeoff trim. And we're flying. Look at that. Gonna check if my rudder, yeah, need to center my rudder there. It's very touchy. Now I'm gonna reduce throttle a little bit. Try to get the plane stabilized. And there we go. Looks good. I forgot to turn on my mirror earlier, but it's nice to have a mirror to look behind you. And now I'm gonna turn left. We'll get to see the nice Cobuletti X there. Now earlier I wasn't too sure about the stall warning, so if I pull hard on the stick, maybe, yeah, the shaker starts by itself there, so I guess it works. So now we're heading more or less straight for the sun. I'm going to try to visually spot our runway. There it is. Very hard to see. There. So I'll continue flying towards the mountains, and then we'll come in and try to land this, which will be a nice accomplishment. That's a nice first flight. Because it's cool to start your jet, it's cool to be able to take off and fly it around, but landing is like a control crash. Have to be able to do it properly. Pretty nice little quiet jet. There seems to be a caution warning every time I bring the throttle down, so I guess they don't want you to drop your speed too much. Thing now is I'm getting my air brake out because I want to slow down for landing speed. So below 200 we can get the gear down. Can start putting in some flaps, as you can see, and then we'll go to the full flaps for landing. And then we're going to hope that we have enough speed. I don't know if this plane is supposed to land with the air brake out or not. I didn't check the procedure for that, so I'll just get it back in. But I am pretty fast, so I'm going to slowly slow it down and give it some nose up trim. Try to line up with the runway, get our feet on the pedals. There we go. I'm still a bit fast. As soon as I touch down, I think what I'll do is I'll get my air brake out. I haven't touched down yet, but I'm getting it out already. There we go. And now we're gonna start braking. And I'm trying to even the braking so that the plane stays straight. Seems pretty good. Alright, so I guess we made it back. And so at this point we can get the air brake back in, get our flaps back up, and we'll taxi to the parking area there, maybe close to those fire trucks. So again, to taxi off the runway, we're going to have to use our differential braking. You don't want to be going too fast. You don't want to flip your plane over. This one looks pretty stable, I gotta say. Some planes like the Su-25, if you turn too fast, it'll want to go to the side. The Mirage F1 is also known for that. To a certain extent, the F-16 as well. If you go really fast, try to turn, you're gonna scrape your wingtips, and if you have missiles on those, you've just scrapped a very expensive missile. So we'll just taxi this back close to the tower, get it into a parking spot, and I guess we'll say this has been our first successful flight with this plane. For me, the next step I'm gonna try to do is continue watch some of the videos I've started watching to learn a little bit about the navigation systems. From what I understand, the TACAN doesn't quite work like it does on other planes on this one, so I'll have to learn this. And I might have to use some of the NDB stations and things like that on the airfields. So we'll just turn here. Trying to get used to precise controls with these differential brakes. Let's see how we did. Well, we put the front rail right on that little white line there. That's pretty good. And I think if we want to talk to the ground crew, we have to put this thing on the intercom. Is that the one for intercom? Let's try it. Ground crew. Wheel chucks?
Chief, place the wheel chucks. Copy. Wheel chocks are now in place.
And we have our wheel chucks, so that allows us to do our lazy shutdown. And so yeah, nice first flight with that little jet. So here the auto shutdown is probably turning off a bunch of switches. Now the engine is going to the off position. And our cockpit is now open, and we have our little ladder, just like we did when we first started. So I guess this plane is parked. So I hope you enjoyed the little flight. Gonna go check here. Says, wish I could play DCS or PC. Are you using VR? No, I'm using a track IR to move my head around. So I'll go back into the cockpit here. And so basically what I have is on top of my monitor, there's like this little camera. And on my headset, I have something that emits 3 little lights, and I've calibrated it so that if I look to the left side of my monitor like that, it basically looks behind the plane. And if I look to the right side, it looks behind the plane. So you don't have to move your head as much as in VR, because in VR you would actually have to move your head like this, you know, like behind the plane to actually see. So you have to make like a physical adjustments. I don't have to move that far to look like this, but I do tilt my head like to the left, to the right, and it follows my head. So that's how I am able to do all that. So that's the way to do this. Alright, so that'll be all for this particular flight. So I hope you enjoyed it, and there might be a few others coming pretty soon once I figure out how to use the navigation. I want to, if you look at the map here, I'd like to fly to Batumi to do some touch and go, and then come back to Kobuleti, and we're gonna probably follow those little NDB things here that you can see, those radios. They emit signals that you can follow to get from one place to the other. So that'll be all for that one. Maybe before I go, I'm gonna do this, get a good angle, because I like to take nice screenshots. That's one of the reasons why I went close to those fire trucks. So we'll have the sun in the distance, and I can even turn the head of my pilot like that, so that when I go back to my outside view, the pilot's looking at the camera for a nice screenshot. There we go. So we'll use that for the screenshot for this particular video. That's it for now. Cool handout.